I'm so super excited, Mr. Sam, to have you on this business conversation with Daniel Moses today. You are somebody that I have a very, very, very high regards for, and somebody that has been a great motivator. I remember many years ago, I watched you on TVs, and I watched you on the auction house, and I was thinking in my head, one day, when can I buy properties in the auction? One day, when can I become a property investor? And over the last couple of years, here we are, now friends. Destiny, wow. Isn't it, Mr. Sam?
Oh yeah, thanks to Daniel for inviting me on. It's been a great knowing you. It's great. I like attending your events. Very full of energy. So it's good to be here, to have a good chat with you. Like I said, I love coming to your events. Very, very informative.
Absolutely, absolutely. Great. It's really great to have you live on Zoom, live on Facebook, and we're currently chatting and everybody's following, and we can get a lot of questions answered today. So, Mr. Sam, tell us, how did you get started in property? Because you've been in property for over 15 years. How did you get started, Sam?
I started out in properties probably, I would say, in fact, on record it says 15 years, but it's really, I think my eldest daughter is 22 years old. We lived in a flat that we bought in Camden, and when she was born, we decided to move to Edgware. So when we moved to Edgware and start renting out the flat, I guess technically I became a landlord then, but albeit not what I would call a professional landlord until probably about, say, 15 years ago, that I decided to deliberately buy properties to rent. Then I was in IT as a contractor. So myself and a couple of friends, we work Monday to Friday as IT contractors in London, and then on Friday night we'll go up to Manchester to buy properties off plan. In those days, it was much easier than now. All you needed was £1,000 to reserve a property, and then by the time it's built up equity that probably makes up for your down payment. So life was much easier in those days than now. So in terms of buying properties. So that's how I got into properties, and then and I continued in IT. Then up to about, say, 2000. Then later I moved into business, more working in a family business that brings in healthcare workers from across the world to the UK. And with that, when you bring in lots of people from the Philippines, from Nigeria, from all over the world to the UK, you need to house them somewhere. So we used to rent properties in Weston-super-Mare, in Newcastle, North Wales, and then put the nurses in to share them. At that time, there was no HMO as a title. It wasn't a sexy business. It was just what we did to make it. It wasn't rent to rent. There was no name like rent to rent. It was basically, we want accommodation. So it didn't have all the sexy names that it now has. So we'd get houses and then keep the nurses in. Which is why I own properties in Weston-super-Mare, because I used to buy in locations where there were nursing homes or hospitals where we bring nurses to. So yes, so that's how I got into what is now an HMO across the UK.
Yeah. And
then in my travels, I met quite a lot of high net worth individuals, especially like in Nigeria, in Eastern Europe. I got very friendly with a lot of people that have more money than they should be keeping in one bank account.
Yeah.
So I sort of like suggested to them, why don't you buy a property in the UK? And a few of them, so I did it for them for free, just help them buy properties in the UK. And suddenly I had more and more requests to buy properties from people in the UK. I decided to now doing it as a service to actually charge for buying a property in the UK. Yeah. With that, decided to buy an estate agency business. I acquired an estate agency business to use as a vehicle to access deals. Then I thought to myself, what is the best way of getting the most out of this industry, getting known in the industry? And the only no-brainer idea that came to my mind is to start up a networking event.
Yep.
At the time, there were lots of networking events in central London, which I attended, but there was nothing in North London. So I started something from Hilton Hotel in Wembley, and that went on for years. So I would have events, bring in speakers. We always paid to go to events in Central London, and I thought to get people from Central London to attend an event in Wembley, it might be a good idea not to charge, which is why I started doing my own events free, so that I can attract people from Central London to come to them, which it was great. And I decided to invite, say, the council, local councils, Harrow, Brent, Barnet, to come and present to the to my events. And I remember once one of the guys from the council asked how many landlords, how many people here own properties in that borough, and I had about maybe 150 people in the room. More than 60 people put up their hands, and he said to me, "Sam, when we run an event for landlords to come and we talk to them about policy changes, we hardly get more than 30, 40 people come. How come you have 60 of our landlords here when we cannot even get them?"
Yeah.
That's how I got to start doing events for the council. So it says you better way of bringing our landlords together than we do. And with that, I agreed to do events for Harrow, for Brent, and we do events for about 500 landlords. And so I think in terms of getting into property, that's my my story.
Wow, Mr. Sam, that's obviously that is such a massive introduction for yourself, because you know, there is a lot of work that goes behind the scene, and there is a lot of years. It's been a lot of years of hard work, years of non-stop. You kept grinding. You moved from a family business into letting agent to events. You're such an inspiration. Like I said, over the last few years, I've literally watched you on different type of different property programs, even on live TV. And how did you then manage to get into the auction house? And you know, that's really done successfully well for yourself.
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. The thing is, people talk about being entrepreneurs and this. For me, I think an entrepreneur is just someone that is always looking out for problems and finding out how they can solve them, or looking out for things that are different. And I think if you have that as a definition for an entrepreneur, I think I do that on a daily basis. Of course, I've always bought properties from auctions for my clients, traded for clients, and I attend auctions all the time. So once I went to a property event, and Jay Howard then was a manager of auction house. He was at that event, and we chatted, which is where going to events is quite important. We chatted, had a good time. He got to know what we do. I invited him to some of my events, gave him a stand, and their auction event starts on 12 o'clock. They have a ballroom they have to take from early morning, so they come in and they do that setup. And I asked him if it's okay for me to chat with his boss, and I chatted with them, and I said, "You guys have this room empty until 12 o'clock. When you have an auction, people come late if they have a later lot that they're interested in, lot 200 or lot 100. But it's great to have a full room when the auctioneer comes in. So why don't I do an event in the morning? Before the auction starts, I can fill this room with a few hundred people." The guys, they say, "Really? You sure you can do that?" I say, "Fine, let's do it." That's how we started it. We call it Property Coffee Morning. So everyone comes in, we'll get them a free coffee, we'll get speakers, and we have a Q&A panel until the auction starts. And then the auctioneer has a full room at the start of the auction. I worked out that what if I decide to do this event at a different time? Property Coffee Morning probably restricts me to the morning, and it might be a different time. So I changed the name from Property Coffee Morning to Property Question Time. Then we can do it at midnight. We're not restricted to the morning. So at times you have to keep thinking. When you name a company, you got to think, what does it suggest to people out there? So I thought, let's change it from Coffee Morning to Property Question Time. And since then, quite a few other companies come up to us asking us to do their own events as well.
Yeah. Wow. So you've not only just, you know, you're not only just a property investor, you're not just a guy who makes things happen. You're a guy to be reckoned with in the whole property industry. And ever since this lockdown, you literally have 2 or 3 events going on every single day, educating property professionals and obviously bringing a lot of property experts together. And you continue to just grind, you continue to share. You know, you've obviously built a massive, you know, a massive network of property professionals. And again, you've done a lot of acquisitions. So do you want to shine a little bit of light on your acquisitions?
Yeah, what we do, like I said, I used to have an estate agency on the high street.
Yeah.
But I got rid of it because I didn't think the estate agency is for me. It's, you know, you get in the morning, you wait for people to come to you,
Yeah.
and then you do it. But it's not me. I wanted to go out there and do things. Go out to Lagos, do an open day in a hotel, talk to people about investments in the UK, in Bulgaria, do it abroad, and then get inwards investments. I do a lot of acquisitions, and then because we work quite closely with the councils. Most London boroughs are buying properties out of London, so we have contracts to actually acquire properties for them. Say you go to Milton Keynes, all the estate agents will know us quite well because we do property acquisitions out there. So yeah, so we like to work from a point of view where we have an investor or a company.
Yeah.
We would speak to them. Find out what exactly they're looking for, and then we can go out there and do the acquisitions for them.
Yeah. And that has been very, very successful.
It's been great because most investors do not have time to look out for everything that's out there.
True.
Could be through estate agents. We would negotiate on their behalf.
Yeah.
We have a big database from doing all these events.
Yeah.
And just send an email to our database, say we're looking for a 4-bedroom, or we're looking for a construction site, we're planning, and we get that all the time.
Great. So, Mr. Sam, so obviously for the last 15 years, you've been involved in property auctions, HMO, property development, networking events, auction. Obviously, you're an auction expert and acquisition. So, with this current climate, what is the property market saying? What can you advise people watching right now, thinking, how can we get started? Obviously, you know, I'm a rent-to-rent expert, and also I do the buy, rent, refurbish finance strategy. And what would you want to say to whether it's newbies, whether it's already property experienced professionals, or just an expert in general? What kind of advice can you give?
I think we have a great opportunity for newbies to come into the property industry. What we are experiencing now is what I call a reboot, it's a reset of the system. You and I that have been in the business for a while, we might suffer a bit from the changes, but anyone coming new has nothing to lose.
Yeah.
And I think it's never been a better time. You know, people always say, oh, 10, 15 years ago, it was quite easy to get mortgages, but there's always things that are different. I think now it's never going to be a better time to get into properties because mortgage rates are at an all-time low. So it's very easy to get in. And I think with what's happening now, once we come off from lockdown, there'll be a few challenges, especially on the high street. So the government would react by maybe changing a few planning rules. They will relax a bit of rules to make sure that people can repurpose the high street. I think there will be a great opportunity to buy some properties on the high street, maybe convert them to residential, because the government will be quite open to actually allow people to be able to repurpose the high street to bring some life back on the high street.
Yep.
Then, in terms of the market, after the lockdown, when people look at the property market, it's not one market, there's quite a few markets. You got your HMO market, you get a buy-to-let, you get the owner occupiers.
Yes.
I think the owner occupier market will probably be very slow and stagnant because people that want to buy a home and move to, I think there will be a bit more reluctance to move right now.
Okay.
More from the disease scale of the virus, and then maybe job security.
Yep.
So they might want to make sure that their job is secure before they actually move to a new home. So I think that market might be a bit slow, but I think the buy-to-let, the HMO, the rent-to-rent market now is a time for new people to come in. Take for instance, rent-to-rent service accommodation. The last month or two have been very challenging for that industry.
Yes.
Most people have actually dropped the keys through the owners' doors. Most of those owners have set themselves up not to be managing properties. So I think there will be quite a lot of opportunities for people that are new to pick up.
Yep.
People that have nothing to lose to pick up and run after the lockdown.
I definitely do believe I do believe that that's exactly what's going to happen. Anyone that is currently not educating themselves in property or in any type of strategy they're currently doing, in anything that you're doing, if you're not educating yourself in the business, your business is going to just die. That's the truth. But if you're somebody who has been educating yourself, you've been putting a lot of work into, self-development and self-empowerment through knowledge, I do believe this is the real time. The last recession we had was between 2008 to 2010. And within those periods, obviously we saw the market crashed. We really saw, people really lost a lot. And the whole country lost a lot of money. Again, we're going to be in a recession, whether we like it or not, because obviously the government has really stepped in a lot, trying to help a lot of businesses and all of that. Again, they're going to try and do what they have to do to bring everything, to bring the economy back to where it needs to be. But in investing, it's going to be all about what people are reading about, what people are learning, and how much action they're taking. So for me, I do 100% agree that there's going to be a lot of opportunities. I totally think that there's going to be a surge. There's going to be a surge because of the lockdown. Again, there are certain strategies that wouldn't work. So from your own sort of experience, and for someone like yourself who's been in property for over 15 years, now we have so many types of strategies. These days you hear about rent-to-rent to HMO, rent-to-rent to service accommodation, you hear rent-to-rent to actually buy single lets, and you hear about single lets, you hear about development, you hear about refurbishment and so on, so many lists. What will be your top 3, or rather, let me actually say, what will be your top 5 property strategy that you think anyone right now can actually get involved with?
I think anyone that is going into properties now, they should, whatever strategy you're going into, there's a great opportunity now to arrange delayed completions. People are more open to delayed completion now than ever. I sold a property at auction yesterday for 500,000 in Notting Hill. The vendors are happy.
Sorry, not
but it's an ex-council. It's an ex-council flat. But those they're cash machines. If you use them for HMO in that location,
yes,
or around that White City, the ex-council big 3-4 bedroom flats, I sell them. I had the legal pack came out on Friday last week, so I sold it under a week. So, but now the vendors are happy to give up to a 4 months completion. Because I advise them that if you give, the longer the completion time you give, the easier it is to sell, because it opens up your pool of buyers.
Yeah.
And in this kind of market, you do not want to wait until the lockdown to find out what might happen. So I advise which is why at times people ask me, why should I come to you instead of going to auction company to sell my properties? Because I would advise you the best option for you, the best way to actually deal with a property. And once it's listed, I would look for the best community to market your property to. So that property, they've got like a 4 months completion. So we have a situation where vendors now are looking for committed buyers. If you can exchange 5-10%, you might get a longer time to complete. It could take 6 months. So you need to know if the vendors are just about getting a committed buyer and they don't need the money. They can let you fly a couple of months. Whatever you then do is between you and the vendor, how you agree. HMOs, I think HMOs would probably, as much, we do have quite a lot of rooms right now that are empty. You have a lot of vacant rooms, but I think it's because of the crisis. Because what tends to happen is that, what happened, most people went back home to be with their families.
Yes, absolutely.
Because they want to be with their families. After lockdown, people will go back to their rooms. They're not going to stay with their families. You don't get a 25, 26-year-old person wanting to be with their family after the lockdown. They go back. So the room market will come back quite buoyant. And then people who had maybe moved to a one-bedroom flat, they might be thinking, am I going to be in my job for too long or not? Let me get a room. So they might downsize. So I think rooms will be a big demand for rooms in the market after lockdown. So HMO will be a great strategy to actually follow. And then the single buy to let could be very interesting in the low property value areas. So if you go, when I say low property value, I don't necessarily mean you go up north. Even within London, the catchments of low property values, like if you come to Harrow, you go to Croydon, there are areas where there's low properties, where, say, in Wembley, when you buy those low properties right now, where you can rent them to government tenants or social service tenants, will be a strategy that many people will follow, because the economy is going to be a bit shaky in the next 2, 3, 4 years before things stabilize. And the last company that's going to have problems is the council. They have all the money in the world. They can print more money if they want to. The government will just send them print more money. So I think any government-backed scheme like tenants on benefit, there will be a big push for people to diversify their investments. And look, why I say cheaper properties, because it makes sense in terms of the numbers adding up. So if you have a cheaper property in Harrow or in an area where 3-bed semi-detached are going for $500,000, and you look for a cheap street that you can buy for 350, and then you take in LA tenants, it'll be a good yield, and you know they're going to be there for like 7 years, which is great, or 10 or more years.
Great, Mr. Sam. Very eloquently answered. So, how do you think any property entrepreneur should actually be? You know, we've been in lockdown now for just around about 6 weeks, and if you really look at it, how do you think any property entrepreneur right now should be making good use of this lockdown, or maybe how have you been making good use of this lockdown for yourself?
I mean, I was hoping not to use the P word, but the P word is quite difficult to not use, especially in these circumstances. But it's not such a bad word. It's a good word. I think it's afforded people time to sit and think and put pen to paper and think about their systems and what they do. But most importantly, education. We've never had so much education. I've got right here, I've got like 3, 4 tripods in my office here at home. At times I'm listening to about 2 or 3 events at the same time. Wow. Because there's so much knowledge out there. While you can get all the knowledge you can get for free on all this, it informs you. But when it comes to taking action, you need a system that can hold you accountable. So once you know the general knowledge for free, you can then align yourself with someone that can help you through in terms of accountability. But everyone, you must have that basic knowledge first. You need to understand all the strategies, because I come across people that say, oh, I'm doing rent to rent, I don't want to learn about property development, I don't want to learn about single let. But I strongly believe if you are in properties, you need to understand all the strategies and then concentrate on one, because opportunities come and go. And what you don't want to do is come face to face with an opportunity and you say, damn, I don't understand the strategy.
Yeah. True. I mean, I agree with you. And also there's something I always say personally. This is what I always say. When you're getting started in property, you need to have a very, very, very flexibility or flexible mindset, first of all, and then focus very quickly in a particular strategy. But once you achieve a lot of success in that particular strategy, then you can branch out into any other type of strategy. I think sometimes one of the places where people make some mistakes is when they get started in property, they try to do 3 property strategies at the same time. And that's where, for me, I think that's where a lot of people make mistakes. Because I'll use myself as an example. I've been doing rent to rent for the last almost coming to 3 years now. And only after 2 years, I kind of started my second strategy, which is buy and refinance. And we've had a lot of conversation around buying at the auction. And now, personally, you're going to be teaching me how to acquire properties through the auction, and which I'm really, really looking forward to, because I've thought about buying properties in the auction, but it's very complicated when you do look at it. Of which something that you've been doing for so long. You've done so much acquisition in your acquisition company. You've helped a lot of people. You've mentored a lot of people to buying properties with auction. And again, you know, when you build a portfolio business, whether through rent to rent or through lease option or whatsoever the case might be, you do want to have a situation whereby you start buying later in life so that you can start, you know, gaining, you know, having gains on capital appreciation, which is good. Now, most people they think about, I'm going to go and source, I'm going to go and do rent to rent at the same time, I'm going to do this at the same time, and they've been all over the place, not knowing where to start, where to finish. And that can be a little bit of a disaster, isn't it, Mr. Sam?
Absolutely. As much as you need to understand the strategies, you don't have to be doing everything. You need to go on a seminar, or maybe a one-day seminar on property development. It doesn't mean you go and buy development side. You need to go on a one-day seminar on property auctions. You need to just understand how each strategy works.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, it's generally, but in terms of your question back of what I've been doing, what's changed for me during this lockdown, is that when I say about the pivot is, I've been doing events full on, maybe 1 or 2, minimum 2 events a month for like the last 7 years. I mean, one of my claim to fame is that for the last 5 years, I've been to every single auction house auction from beginning to end. So I've seen reaction of people in the market, reaction of people in the room. When I do events, like you do events as well, it's a lot of, especially the kind of events that I do, 500-600 people coming, the logistics, I like it to be on point. So I like to be at the door, I do stuff. So I will have a paid person to do to moderate. I'll get everyone to do something so that I can look after the logistics. But with the lockdown, as soon as we had a lockdown, we had an event the next week, which we had Simon Zucchi on. We already had about 350, 400 people booked before the lockdown was announced. The pressure was on. And I was thinking, damn, what are we going to do? We decided to go online to Zoom. I stayed over 3 nights to learn how to work out Zoom. And I think now, if I do need a job out of the industry, I hope Zoom would employ me, because I think I know how the Zoom system works right now quite well. But I wanted to still get someone to moderate for me. I find that you need a lot of technical skills. When things go wrong, you need to be able to change it yourself. So I had to moderate myself, because then the logistic work that I do in the background is now merged with actually having to host the events. So for me, I started hosting my events myself, not have someone to host it. And I had a chat the other day with one of the landlords that's been coming to my events for like 5 years. And he said, for 5 years, he's been coming to my event with his family. They all see me very busy getting all the logistics, but they've not spoken to me. And for the first, but now suddenly they hear my voice every day. They've never heard my voice before because they'll always see me busy arranging the event, but not talking. But so for me, it's been a big pivot from just being the guy who organizes the meetings, bringing everyone in, to being the guy who talks at the events. So I've moved away from being the silent guy in the background to the talking guy in front.
Great, great.
So I mean, that's to log in, to log down. I would have probably been just too busy getting the day going.
Great, great.
So for me,
great,
that's
great.
the biggest change for me in terms of being locked down.
Wow. So you've gone to you're going to becoming a public speaker now.
Well, like I said, it's start now and get perfect later.
Yeah, absolutely.
You get it started and then you get perfect.
Yeah, I think sometimes a lot of people do worry a lot about. I personally was worried when I first started speaking publicly as well, because I was always thinking in my head, am I communicating? Was I saying the right thing? And one of the things that actually built my confidence was after each time I spoke, someone coming to say, "Oh, you did well, you did well," and that really kind of continued to boost my standards. And you know, and I just started, you know, say I'm going to just continue to put myself. So that's been a very good way for you to, you know, kind of, you know, take care of this lockdown, be productive, and obviously you've got a massive team behind you as well. So, and again, your events are always super packed up. How have you remained? Obviously, you've been busy. How have you remained, you know, kind of positive? Obviously, there's been a lot of negative in the news as well, in terms of when you turn on your TV and you hear people dying. That, to me, that's depressing. You know. So how have you been able to cope?
It's interesting that you asked that question, because our last event yesterday, when we were planning that event on the phone with auction house, we're all trying to brainstorm what ideas we have, because with every event, what we tend to do is we go over core message. It could be HMO, it could be property development, it could be something. So I came up with this idea and I said, there's too much negativity in the industry right now.
Yep.
I want us to put an event where there's nothing negative, everything is positive. I wanted positivity, new knowledge, something that people that come will learn something that's new that they've not had before. So I gave myself like 5 parameters and I said to them, I'll come back tomorrow with a topic. And I got up at night and I thought to myself, we need to have an alternative funding panel. Now, some of the interest rates are very low. However, quite a few banks have pulled out of the market, or they're holding back to see what will happen. Those that are lending, at times they've reduced our loan to value in anticipation of any correction in the market.
Yep.
So so there's too much focus on those negative things. So I thought, let's have a panel. We had a lawyer that presented on joint ventures, how to produce contracts for how to secure a joint venture relationship. I had Vanish Patel to talk about how to go out and position yourself to get joint ventures. Most importantly, my wild card, I brought someone, Stefan, who is a manager from a family office. I realized that half the audience had never heard of a family office before. So that panel yesterday, it fulfilled a lot of positive things.
Yes.
There was no negativity about the COVID. Everyone was looking at how do you do a joint venture? How do you look for someone that has cash to do this? And then people suddenly found out there are families in the UK that have 100 million pounds. They don't know what to do with it. They're looking for where to put that money. It's like, wow, are we sure? Funny enough, when I was looking for a speaker, there were quite a few family office managers. I thought maybe the audience is not right for them. I said, there's nothing like a right audience. There's an audience, you can make them right.
Yeah, you open up the audience, don't you?
Exactly. I said there's a market. You need to educate the market. Once you educate the market, then you create demand. But people don't go for what they don't know, so they need to know. But it's great that I got introduced to Stefan and I got him on, and it's been wonderfully received. Everyone's been calling the office asking for Stefan's details. I want to talk to him. We might have to do an event on family office just so that people know that rich families that have 100 million plus, they have an investment fund waiting to be borrowed.
To be borrowed. Great answer. So that's quite good on the aspect of keeping positive and all of that. So at this current situation, what do you think the changes that are ahead, or what type of changes do you currently think that is happening right now in the industry?
Okay, the quite sweeping changes in the industry now, and most importantly, that ones that affect you and I, the small landlords we are, is the inability to evict a tenant right now. Fair enough, it's a well-intended policy, and I hope tenants take it that way. But you might have tenants that, a small minority of tenants that will probably not pay their bills now,
yep,
or their rents, knowing that you cannot take them out for 3 months, and then come 3 months they leave. That is a bad tenant anyway. But I think any good tenant would know that they need to stay good. That's not the intention of the law for them not to pay their bills. But yes, so that is a change that's in place. Then we have the government announced a recommendation for people not to move homes if they don't have to. Unfortunately, it got seen as a ban on people moving homes. So it got interpreted like, oh, you can't buy it. So that kind of like shut down the market a bit. So this is on the residential. So there's not been a lot of big changes, but where the changes are massive is on the commercial. Because the commercial property space is one where people have always enjoyed investing in it, because they can easily secure if you have a tenant that wasn't paying that rent, you can actually turn up and lock up the door immediately, and then go through the courts and get them to pay you, or keep their goods. But the government has actually changed the law to do with that.
Yeah.
And then most importantly, and I'm trying not to use any technical terms at all, since the audience is quite diverse. So when you sell a property on a street where people live, you can do comparables. Next door sold for 550, so this one should be 540, 555 because of the state of the property. But commercial properties are valued differently. The valuation of a property in the commercial space is based on the cash flow. It's based on the strength of the covenant. If it's AAA, if you have Costa, or you have a family corner shop, even though it's the same size of unit on the same high street next door to each other, one is worth more than the other just because of who you have in there.
Yeah.
But with the lockdown and the current challenges in the business space,
yeah,
1, 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks from now, the lockdown will end. Businesses will come back. And I say that very slowly because they will come back. Not all of them will come back. You don't know who is coming back. So it makes it very difficult in the commercial space right now to actually value a property, because you don't know how strong the covenant is. You don't know if that business will come back or not. Will they survive the lockdown? Because 4 weeks, 8 weeks of not trading, not many businesses can take it. It's a big challenge.
Yeah.
So that what's happening now will probably impact the commercial space a lot more than residential.
Great.
So it will really be a game changer. I mean, there's a whole lot of other things that are going on in the background, but it's too technical for this discussion on the commercial space.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the government has been really very forthcoming with terms of support. Obviously there's been the CBS loan, the coronavirus intervention loan. There's been the bounce back loan. There has been a lot of types of funding that the government has been just obviously giving away to support businesses. So in terms of, I was in a forum early this morning where, even the situation with the bounce back loan, some people got really good amount of money, and they said, you know what, in as much as they need that money to do some things, they could actually use that money and go and acquire a property, for example. And some said they could actually use it, pay down their higher interest loans that has been costing them maybe £1,000, £2,000 a month. And some people are currently, maybe imagine someone bought a property and they couldn't refinance, and they're currently on a high interest bridging loan at the moment where they have to service. So the government has really obviously helped. So, but with all these kind of finances, all these different emergency loans that the government has kind of put in place to help businesses, how can property entrepreneurs really benefit from all these loans that I've just mentioned?
I think in terms of the property industry in particular, it just depends on how people are structured. There's some people that work with multiple limited companies.
Yeah.
So what that will happen is that they will have to apply for multiple loans, because each limited company is a business by itself.
Yep.
So they will have to be applying for quite a few loans. Those who operate from maybe one company and then they have a higher turnover, so hopefully they will be able to apply for a bit more money that they can then use for something as substantial as that. And I think one good thing is that the government hasn't put any restriction on how you can use the money. So if you think by paying off a high interest loan, it then reduces your outgoing and that helps you survive, then fine. So I think that's where that will be the best way that you can get it done.
Yeah.
But and then quite a lot, and I think it's quite good that the business loan came in, because, and it's based on turnover, because quite before when they only had the salary loan that was based around income, most property investors would pay themselves quite low. So it was quite difficult as a self-employed to be able to claim a lot on your income. But now that it's almost a turnover, it's superb.
Yeah, it's really it's been such an amazing idea. I mean, I actually applied for the bounce back loan, and within 48 hours or so, I got my own bounce back loan, which was based on my turnover, and that really was a massive relief. Like it's like a rope taken off my neck. When I mean like a rope taken off my neck, because I was not able to kind of repurpose that actual fund, because in my mind now, in as much as the portfolio has been performing, I've been very, very fortunate that last month in April, I kind of received 100% of my rents. This month again, 100% came through. And but the fact was, I had some properties in my portfolio that was purposed as self-accommodation. So I had to repurpose those particular property. And repurposing those property means I had to kind of, the ones that were 2 beds and 1 bed apartments as self-accommodation, I had to kind of exercise the break clause, but again, it went with some cost. So in my mind, during this period whereby you're struggling to, you're struggling to do so many things, you're really only if you're super, super creative. So I have been able to obviously rent some rooms over the last couple of 10 years. I've been able to rent about 10 rooms in my HMOs. So having that sort of money come through for me to be able to repurpose my business, really meant a lot. So again, for those of you who are currently watching, if you've got a business, that obviously you've got to have a turnover in order for you to apply for the loan anyway. So it's not just that a new startup business can apply for this. I think it's a loan that's based on what your turnover is. So again, if you're part of my group, and again, if you're also part of the Property Midas, sorry, Mr. Sam, what's the name of your group again? Mr. Sam?
Midas Property Group.
Yeah, Midas Property Group. So if you're on the Midas Property Group, you can also find useful information, because Mr. Sam always posting a lot of information that helps a lot of property individuals. For those of you who are interested in acquisitions, buying property from the auctions, you know, building a portfolio, and again, understanding the auction market a bit, he shares a lot of information on that. So again, look into kind of helping yourself financially and helping your business, because it's not really a very, it's been a very difficult time. It's all about, you know, what information, who are you listening to, and where you find information. It's good that the government are putting information out online, but sometimes people are still very, very confused about how to go about it. So do reach out to myself or do reach out to Mr. Sam if you do have any questions around that. So Mr. Sam, going forward currently in the market, is this still a good time for anyone to buy at the auction?
Where do I start? I think what's happened is that with the lockdown, estate agents have gone to the back garden. They're having barbecues, maybe playing golf. They're not allowed to play golf, but we don't know where they are. They've disappeared. It's only the auctioneers that have kept the market going. Estate agents have really been off the space. What's going to happen is that the two categories of sellers. I mean, there are a lot of sub sellers, but in men, there are people that have to sell now and people that can wait. And we know it takes maybe 3 months, 4 months plus to sell through an estate agent. If you have to sell your property for any reason or another, and you've had 3 months of not being able to list it to an estate agent, what post lockdown, you have that property on the market, you want a committed buyer. The key difference between an estate agent and an auctioneer is that an estate agent, someone can walk in, make an offer to buy a property, it takes 2 months, you find out they cannot buy it. They haven't got any money. So it takes maybe a month or 2 for the market for them to market it. You get a buyer, it takes you 2 months to find out the person cannot buy that property. So you've lost about what, 3-4 months. So if you really have to sell a property, I'm not saying give away a property for free. If you have to sell, you want a committed buyer, the only place that you can sell is at the auction. The way auctioneers sell, we sell very differently. We prepare all your legals, get everything together, list all the properties in, have open houses, everyone comes and sees it, looks at the legals, and then make an offer either before or on the auction day, but they must be ready to commit with 10% on the day and complete thereafter. Yeah,
usually 28, is it 28 days, right?
28 days, but it can be varied depending on a few things. So if you are looking at selling and you want a committed route to market, you want to sell committedly, I think auctions will be the best place for you to sell.
Great.
Because estate agent, it will take them quite a while to get back to full capacity.
Great. Thank you so much, Sam, for your deep explanation, you know, around property and around different strategy. Obviously, because of time, there's so much to talk about, and there's so much to talk about that we can't literally cover all in one day. So you have an event coming up on Saturday, don't you?
Yes, Daniel, we've got this. Again, it's one of the things that you do when you're locked down. We normally used to do once a month. We used to do like a property workshop from Kensington Holiday Inn. But since lockdown, we've been doing it every Saturday, where we literally get a few tens and hundred of property investors together, and we talk them through the auction process. So what we're doing, we have an event this Saturday that starts from 9:30 to 5. From 9:30 to about 11 to about 12 until about lunchtime, we talk them through how to prepare for auctions, all the basic terms at auction, everything that they need to know. And then at 2 o'clock, we tend to bring in some star guests. This Saturday, we've got David from EIG. EIG is a main system where you go to look for properties at auction. And then we've got Yasmin, she's a property solicitor. So she would actually explain everything that you need to know on the legal side. And then we've got Obi, who's a valuer. One of the key challenges that people are having in the industry now is that you make an offer, it's accepted, a valuer comes in and then downvalues the property, and then you're back to square one. So we have an insider that will tell us what are the surveyors looking for right now. So we think this Saturday, it'll be a great day for anyone that hasn't got any party to go to spend the day with us on Saturday and understand how auctions work.
Fantastic, fantastic, Mr. Sam. Thank you so much for that deep explanation. Definitely, I'm going to be bringing you back to the Instagram Live, because going forward, I think there's been a massive feedback on this Instagram Live and Facebook Live that we've now combined together. And obviously interviewing experts, which has been tagged Business Conversation with myself, Daniel Moses. So it's been a great pleasure to having you. And obviously I've taken so much of your time today because we had a 1 hour session whereby we're strategizing, and we now have another 1 hour where we've been just pouring out knowledge and information. So definitely it would be worth me bringing you back again, and obviously having you speak at one of the Rent to Rent Property Network event to obviously expand the knowledge of people that come to that event, because it's about you getting started somewhere and actually, moving your way to moving your way up, which is what I've done. I started rent to rent from the back of being a taxi driver, and now I'm not somebody who is buying properties, which has been an amazing journey for myself. So, Mr. Sam, again, I just want to thank you for coming, and I will definitely be bringing you back to the Instagram live chat where we can share more information and more value. And so, if anyone wants to, come to that event you're having on Saturday, if you don't mind, you can post the link on the chat box right now, or you can actually reach out to Mr. Sam on his Instagram inbox at the Mr. Sam Fongoh or Midas Property Group, and to get most of those information. Again, you can follow Mr. Sam on Facebook and Instagram. He's literally everywhere. Yeah. So at this particular point in time, we're gonna be wrapping up this live chat today. And just to give you guys a reminder again, I've got the Rent to Rent Property Network coming up on the 25th of May. I start at 6 o'clock. We're going to be on from 6 o'clock to 6:30. Again, we have great speakers. Desmond Daly is going to be sharing on how you can raise finances for your property investment, whether you're a newbie or you're a professional. Mr. Des will be sharing that information. We have Ross Chong, who's going to be sharing his journey as a renter and as a renter business owner. So guys, I want to really thank you for, again, watching this live Instagram, and we'll be back again tomorrow where I will be sharing what we've been doing in our business, Southeast London Properties, our property wealth education company, where we train people on how to get started at the rent-to-rent strategy, and again, how to build an e-commerce business. I'm going to be sharing that tomorrow, Friday, and it's going to be a live, very, very, very interesting live conversation with one of my mentees, who now happens to be a business partner. So, guys, make sure you tune in. So, Mr. Sam, before we go, because of time, what would be your final words?
Thanks for having me. Always happy to be of value. So it's great to have you. And I think my final word is that now we just had a reset of this whole system. For those that are new, people that are not yet in property and they're thinking of coming in, there's never been a better time. And if anything, I say you start and get better and get perfect. If you're waiting to be perfect, you're never going to start. And just for tonight, I asked Artie to set up a special discount for your community, for people who actually book tonight. They can go onto our website, or we can put a link in. But if they book with a link with a code Daniel Moses DM, they can actually get 50% discount today. Wow. So it's not going to cost them more than 2 glasses of wine to come and spend the day with us.
Fantastic, fantastic. Guys, you've heard from Mr. Sam. If you're interested in, obviously 2020 has been a very interesting year. If you're interested in starting your property acquisition, he's actually doing a very fantastic offer for 50% discount to his workshop, which is on Saturday, 9 o'clock. It says start and finish 5 o'clock. Am I correct? 9 o'clock start, 5 o'clock finish?
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely, yes,
Fantastic.
You're right.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Mr. Sam, and it's been a pleasure interviewing you on my Instagram Live and Facebook.